If you love the West Tigers as much as we do, and that's an awful lot, you're welcome to come and join us in our discussions on the West Tigers podcast forum. Our forum is the #1 forum for West Tigers fans to talk everything West Tigers. westtigerspodcast.com.au/forum. We hope to see you there soon.
West Tigers podcast, it's episode number 401. We've got a change lineup tonight. We've got Steve and Declan in the house, boys. Steve, you missed the record-breaking, well, you didn't miss the record-breaking defeat in Melbourne. You were there at the ground, but you missed our podcast 400. I'm sure you'd probably rather swap those two around.
Oh, well, mate, and congratulations. Congratulations especially to you and Joel. It sort of went almost unnoticed because we were just in a pit of despair. But it's a pretty good achievement, really, to knock out 400. And you've been there since day one. And then Declan's the next one. Declan was the third one to join, right? So, yep. Yeah, it's a great achievement. Pity our club couldn't follow with the same level of consistency.
I did say, Declan, on Monday night that I told Joel my limit was 1,000, and if we've reached 1,000 podcasts and we haven't made the 8, then I'm going to retire. Are you of a similar mindset, or do you reckon you'll be around longer?
I'm one of those guys that takes it a season as it comes, so you can't ever foresee too much into the future. But I gotta say, Eddie, the way you're going, if you make it to 1,000 episodes, I'll just be really surprised.
Very surprised. All right, boys. Well, it's a typical midweek podcast. We'll preview the South game, which is not until Sunday night. Interesting. We've had a couple of them this year. We've got Yachty's quiz at the end, which Steve will host, and we'll talk a little bit about. We've got 18 off-contract players the next 2 years, and I'm going to ask the boys whether they would re-sign them and for how long. And we've got some buy, sell, and hold. But first off, Steve, I'll start with you. You are at Amy Park. What's your one word for the game on Sunday?
Oh, gee. So I've narrowed it down to two, and it's well, the word is admiration. And that's just admiration for a professional club that goes about its business week after week, month after month, year after year, just getting the job done. And that's the Melbourne Storm. And I know we're a West Tigers podcast, and we're all about West Tigers, and that's the team we love and support with so much passion. But you just got to admire this amazing football organisation that play a bad game or two, their coach comes out and gives them a goal full, and they respond professionally. And there's no carry on, there's no high-fiving, there's no doing laps of honour. They just score a try, go back to halfway, reset, and do it again. And they do it time and time and time and time again. And I just am yearning for the day that our club can show one semblance of that level of professionalism or consistency. Because I got to tell you, that last weekend, that just killed me. I just thought it was absolute crap of the highest order.
We will talk a little bit, not dwell on the game as much as we did on Monday, but we'll talk a little bit about that preparation sort of mindset thing, because a lot of Tigers fans have been sort of talking about this week. But Declan, your one word?
My one word would be just shocking. Not necessarily talking about the actual performance itself, because that was horrendous. But I know everyone says that we kind of were not at our best in the previous two games that still managed to win. But even with that being said, I just had no idea that the team had this sort of performance in them. I was just shocked to see it, because I well and truly thought that we put that kind of thing behind us. Because after that Storm game up at the Sunshine Coast a few years ago, I just always thought that it would never be as bad as that again. That's the kind of rock bottom moment. But somehow, it just was if it wasn't as bad, it was equal to that game on the Sunshine Coast, because we just looked absolutely rattled. This had no idea what we were doing. The Storm were just in a mood. They were scoring pretty much off every set, and it's just really surprising because like I think we can all agree that we've made some like really good roster moves since then. And although I never expected us to win the game, I had no expectation or belief that we would get that much put on us. So that's why it was shocking.
Yeah, that's the thing, Declan. Like I think anyone that's reasonable in their thinking would say, look, this season we're always going to have our ups and downs, and and 5-5, that's probably more up than maybe we thought we'd be. After 10 rounds of the competition, and yeah, there's been some good signs, and there's been some good stuff, and then there's been some poor performances, and I think that's the journey we've got to accept and expect, especially this season. But to be 30, what was it, 34 at half time, and then come out and dish up the same rubbish again in the second half and just have no intensity and no answer for anything Melbourne did. Like you could tell in that first 5 minutes, right? Pappenhausen came out with a mission on his own to out enthuse anything that we had. And the game was dead set over. Someone that was at the ground watching it, the game was dead set over after between 5 and 10 minutes of the first half. And to not be able to rebound in any capacity, like I can accept going to Melbourne and getting knocked off by 20, maybe up to 30 points. I can accept that they can do that. But to have that put on you in 40 minutes and then not come out with any rebound after that, that's just rubbish, mate.
Yeah, and it does change the season somewhat because before that you could say that besides the Storm game, besides the Brisbane Broncos game, we were pretty much in every single game we played in. And if we had a little bit more luck, some games we might have won all those games. But this is just it just changes the narrative because now puts the pressure back on Benji as a coach. That's like probably not too far away if we don't seem to win like any more games or we go through like a running like struggle. And then, how does it like what do we expect from the players now? Because if they've got that kind of performance in them, then like, I honestly don't know what they're going to dish up against South Sydney. But before that, I would have told you that the biggest pleasing part of this season was that the floor of the team had risen. Like, yes, we might not necessarily have reached the highs of like some of the leading teams in the competition, but our consistency was much better. But now that's just out the window. I genuinely don't know where we go from here, like what to expect now.
It's interesting, Steve, because I sort of, I've listened to a couple of the other pods, the West Tigers Life Boys, and I agree with the sort of they are screaming out for a bye, this squad. But like you said, it's even I, who can be the probably most negative one on here, didn't see that coming. Did you worry about, did they go there basically? I did find the Benji comments sort of a bit, and it's probably in hindsight, to be honest, but when he said we've got nothing to lose, he said that a few times during the week. And I thought after when they lost 64-0, did that sort of seep into the mindset and the club just went there going, oh, well, if we play in Melbourne, we don't have to, it doesn't matter if we lose this game, we're expected to lose.
I know I've been caned for saying this before, but I'll say it. The body language when they ran out said it all to me. It really did. Like,
It was actually, sorry, Steve, the action, and I don't like listening to the Fox guys, but Michael Ennis, who was doing the game, said before the kickoff, he wasn't having a go at them, but he said, geez, it's interesting that the mindsets looking into the change room and the warm up, the amount of smiles on the Tigers' faces and how locked in the Storm looked like.
I don't know how to describe the way the team ran out apart from a toddle, right? Like Lua let them out like they were just doing a warm-up lap before they got into a fitness session at training. There was just no intensity there whatsoever. So I don't know what mindset they went down with. Yeah, the way they played, it was like if we don't get the 2 points today, it really doesn't matter. And it does matter, right? It matters heaps. Every game matters when you've got a squad that's trying to rebuild like we are. But yeah, look, to the point of them but getting tired, I get that. They are still a very young squad. We are so thin on first grade talent, and that's showing. And when we get a couple of injuries, what is there to replace those players is just not even close to being ready for first grade standard, and that intensity and that those couple of games where we had to really throw everything at it and last ditch efforts and that sort of thing. It's taken its toll. But that's first grade, mate. That's why they get paid the first grade bickies. That's why they walk around with an NRL t-shirt on 7 days a week, right? And they've got to be up for that. And I tell you what, if they want to, we'll get into this later, I suppose. If they want to resurrect the season, and if they want to maintain people's thinking that they can be a top eight threat, they absolutely have to come out breathing fire this week. I'm not sure how they're going to do it.
Declan, do we need a couple of mid-season signings, or it's going to go downhill from here? And this is the sort of time you'd expect it to happen with, I think we've got 2 buys coming up in the next 5 weeks.
I think that we definitely need to sign a back rower, even if it's just a depth player. I don't know. I've heard some mixed things about Polly as well, about how long he's out for. So maybe even a prop. It depends on like who's available. I think that I'm not sure. I think that we don't necessarily have to like bring in like a big signing to save the season. I think it's more of just like a belief within the team that we can still like go on with it, because it's like you guys say, this is the part of the season we're in the middle of it that like teams like us have, and teams who like kind of fade away. That's when they kind of drop off in performance, because like the energy at the start of the season's gone. You kind of have to have that consistent mindset, and then with injuries, Origin players gone, like a season really can fall apart. So I think that that's probably more important than the signings, but obviously some signings would help for sure. But yeah, I think I'm not sure that that's gonna. I don't think there's any one particular move that we could make that would like make me feel like confident that we can turn around from this, if that makes sense.
Steve, I know what your answer is going to be, because I mean you fairly, I think, have been ropeable in the past when we sort of given up players mid-year and just thrown away a season. The club is certainly not in a position to do that this year, given we've won 5 of our first 10. We're actually sitting 1 win higher than the team in 6th, North Queensland, who have 4 wins, 5 losses, and a bye.
Yeah, well, we're in this competition with a red hot shot, really, at making the 8 at the moment. But what happened last Sunday casts enormous doubts on our ability to play any level of consistent football. Hopefully Sunday was a blip. I've got some real concerns that it wasn't. I've got some real concerns that we've given it the best we've got. We've done fairly well. We've now got a couple of injuries, and we're going to struggle. And I was talking to you, Eddie, before we started the pod. We're both saying that we've got real concerns about the next couple of months and the opposition we face. We're going into a hard part of the season where it gets cold. Attendances drop a little bit. It's not quite as dynamic to be out at the footy, and you got to get yourself up to play good football. But if we want it, we've got to bounce back. It's got to happen against South. So get 2 points against South, 2 points in the bye, then we're probably back in the 8. But yeah, last Sunday. People said the last 2 games before Sunday exposed us, and that's pretty true because we were lucky. But Sunday certainly exposed us.
Taylor May, Declan, he's not the one signing you think that could turn us around? Lift us, lift the quality of the starting 13?
Well, he hasn't played footy in like what's it since 2022. So like I think that like he would be a good player to bring into the squad, but I'm not really expecting him to come and turn everything around. I don't even think he'd play first grade for like maybe like a month while he gets match fit. And that's assuming everything goes 100% correct as well. So yeah, I'm not really expecting someone like that to come in and change everything. Yes, he'd be good for depth, and then he'd be like someone, okay, if he's sorted all his mental health stuff, you could see him having a real impact when he's settled in towards the end of the season or like going into next season. But I see all this stuff about him coming in and everything being good. I'm not sure I would like go that far, but like we do need the depth, and we like he's probably better than what we have at the moment. So you never know.
Would you sign him, Steve?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if he's look, if the club have done their due diligence, and there's no reason for me to believe they haven't, and I'm sure they have, and they are convinced that his attitude is right. There's no question in his football ability. If he wants to go out there and play good football, he will do it. I think Declan's right. Yeah, I think it might take him a bit of time to adjust and get back into the grind, but he's definitely got the ability. It's whether he's got the mindset. So, if the club have worked that out and think that his mindset's right and then absolutely I'd take him. He's a very good footballer.
Declan, the club released just their injury report on their website tonight. Mixed news. Looks like both Latu and Jarrell Skelton will be back after the bye. Excellent for Skelton, especially because we've missed him. But the update around Fanua Pole concerned me. It said, not sure if it said MCL or meniscus, but surgery required. So some of those injuries I don't believe need surgery if they're on the lower end scale, and if they need surgery, I'm thinking that could be a couple of months plus.
No, I'm not sure because someone said that Benji was quoted saying that like it could be like a short term one, like he could be back
Yeah, but
after the bye.
that
But
was
that's
directly after the game.
It's changed, guys. Like I saw 4 to 5 weeks originally, and now it's come out. The one that came out today is now undetermined.
Yeah.
So
Well, when it said surgery required above that, I think that's why it's undetermined. So you think prepare for some bad news there, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is just the reality of sport, isn't it? The injuries happen, long-term injuries happen, and you just have to deal with it as best you can. So yeah, it sucks, but it is what it is.
But I mean, going Steve to your point about just the lack of depth, and I don't want to, hammer someone like Brent Naden, but we'll get to the game later. But looks like we lose one of our starting props for Pole, and there's just no one to bring in, and
no.
we're playing now backs and a mismatch of people on the bench.
Yeah, like I don't want to steal the thunder of later talking about Sunday's game, but yeah, like when you start weakening one position to strengthen another, you're in trouble. And just to use the example, like for me, bringing Hunt into the starting lineup because we have to just massively weakens the impact our bench has been having, which has been one of the highlights of the year, um, as I've seen it anyway. So we have very little choice though. There's nothing else there.
Yeah, I think it's a double whammy because it looks like Kit is concussed, so he's not available this week. Because I would have thought that he would be in this team somewhere with an opportunity, but he's not. So hopefully he's back after the bye because I think that he's someone who could like provide some value. But yeah, it's just I don't know. Yeah, that's just because like so far we've only just had like kind of outside back injuries, and we've managed to kind of scrape through, not too bad. But yeah, Paulie's a big out for us.
Boys, I've put together a list. Again, I was listening to the coach on the West Tigers Life podcast talk about some of the off contract guys, and it got me thinking because I thought it's interesting. 18 guys off contract in the next 2 years. Declan, I'll ask you these first three, and then I'll throw to Steve for the four after. These are the guys off contract at the end of this year. I'll start with just a one-word answer from you, whether you'd re-sign them or not. Brendan Tumeth,
No,
Solomon Fatape,
no,
Justin Matamua.
no,
Steve, also off contract this year, Josh Felady,
No,
Brent Naden,
1 year.
Charlie Staines,
Mm, 1 year.
Adam Dewey.
Dewey. Uh, yeah. Look, actually, I'd probably go Dewey and I'd let Naden go. I'd sign Dewey ahead of Naden.
I mean, Declan, is there a chance that all seven of those guys could get let go?
I think that Adam Dewey will probably stay unless he gets an offer from another club where he could play in the halves. I could see him leaving for that. I think he's playing well enough that he'll definitely get a deal. If it's not with us, it'll be someone else. I'm not really sure it'll be us, just like sweeping the broom with him. I think Charlie Staines. I think if he plays well enough in 5th grade, I could see him I could see a club like talking themselves into him as well. So I'm not sure. And like he is good for depth because he can play fullback and wing. I don't, like not center though. I don't think he can play center. But yeah, so I can imagine. I can see him staying. But the other guys, I mean, for Tape, I feel like when it goes right for him, then you can see that he could be like a first grade squad player. But then his poor games, you're just like, oh geez, like I don't see it. So it also depends on what we can bring in as well from like outside recruitment and what's coming in for the juniors as well. Because I think I if I would reluctantly give Fatapi another 1 year deal if he couldn't really get anything else on that cheaper end, if that makes sense.
Righto, Steve. These are the 11 off contract, 2026. Jack Bird.
Yeah, I'd re-sign Jack Bird. I know he's fallen away a little bit, but I really like what he's brought to the team this year.
Tony Suko. Haven't seen enough of him.
I haven't seen I haven't. Oh, well, I have.
Hmm.
I haven't seen what others are seeing. He's getting. Is he getting a run in the 17 because there's just no one else, or does Benji rate him? Like he's in the 17 this week. Yeah,
It's the
to
only
me,
finding.
he's depth at best, right? He's depth at best.
We hope you're enjoying this edition of the West Tigers podcast. Don't forget, if you agree or disagree, we'd love to hear your comments and thoughts on the West Tigers podcast forum. It's free to join and you can contribute directly to the podcast on the forum. Just head to westtigerspodcast.com.au/forum. We hope to see you there soon.
It's the only finding.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Well, Lockie Galvin, we'll skip that one. Abby Coruscant.
Yeah, if he wants to keep going, yep.
Stafatoa
Yes.
and Talon De Silva.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so there's a fair bit of talent coming off contract at the end of 2026. Declan, who have I missed here? Kit Laulili.
I think I would give him a 1 year extension because I haven't really seen enough yet. But I feel like there's still potential there, but I don't think he's had like enough opportunity to show it. So yeah, 1 year extension.
I'm not really sure who this one is, and I'm not sure if I've got the pronunciation. Solomon Sudoku.
I think it's Sakura, but is he? So when does he come off contract? The end of next year.
End of next season.
Oh,
Yes.
it's a long deal. I wouldn't be re-signing him at this point. Yeah, I think he's not even in New South Wales Cup at this point. So, and we're desperate for outside backs. So you would imagine that like if he was close to first grade, he'd be around the squad at the moment. So yeah, I wouldn't be re-signing him.
All right, interesting. Let's do some buy, sell, and hold, boys. And the first one, sort of, to me, I was just brainstorming tonight, and I thought maybe this is a good idea. Steve, question one. West Tigers need a general manager of football. Buy or sell?
I'd buy that.
Because I just thought, and I don't watch the reserve grade like some guys do, or the flag or whatever, but to be on the bottom of the table at both, there's got to be a big concern for the club. Because even though Richo's done a great job bringing in some first grade talent, which has bolstered first grade this year, there still appears to be just nothing happening down below. And all the ones that did come through from that 2022 Harold Matthews Magpie side have sort of come through already now. And I just look at, obviously there's not many Phil Goulds around, right? Otherwise every club would employ one. But I just think we're possibly missing something there, and the workload could be branched out or spread a little bit further, because I think this is going to bite us on the arse again. The fact that our reserve grade's terrible, our flag's bottom of the table as well, and if first grade get a few injuries, then all of a sudden they go towards the bottom as well.
Yeah, like I'm probably not the best guy. Well, I know I'm not the best guy to talk about it because I don't follow it. One of the things I've said is I really want to start following the lower grades for this exact reason. But like Declan's probably better placed than me to talk about it. But my understanding is that we've got a youth policy and we are heavily investing in our youth, and I think this is the negative of that is when you got such young squads right through. it just takes time to develop, right? And so maybe the hope is that next season that we're going to start to bear the fruit of this youth policy. I don't know. I don't know if that's right or wrong, but yeah, and the reason I said yes so quickly to football manager got nothing to do with last Sunday or anything like that. I've felt that all along, right? Like Benji's a rookie coach, and we're coming last, and going poorly right through the organisation. So to have someone, in the Tim Sheen's mold or the Phil Gould mold or something, like I would love to have someone like Wayne Bennett finish up coaching and come and do that role at the West Tigers, just to oversee the whole thing. Would be really good for us. I'm not saying the guys that are there now aren't doing, a decent job, because maybe they know where they're heading and maybe it's just going to take time. I'm not educated enough to comment, but it's hard to cop while it develops.
I just am jealous of what's happening at the Bulldogs, and I don't like giving Gould credit, Declan, but I think he is a bit of a football genius in terms of pathways, what happened at Penrith and what's happening there. And I don't know whether it's just the list of contacts he's got or how much recruitment they do in their junior pathways, or whether they're just getting the right coaching and development in that area. But it seemed like, in 2 or 3 years, they've gone sort of streets ahead of us in that regard, despite us having least, if not more, juniors.
Yeah, I did give the Bulldogs a lot of credit back in the day for their recruitment, and I got a lot of flack from basically everyone in this panel. So yeah, it is a little bit interesting now that, with that. But I don't know, it's just I think that Phil Gould, he's really good at building a club, not necessarily just the first grade team. And I think that's the problem with us at the moment, that as a club we're still very underdeveloped. Like, yes, the first grade team is quite good, or like, it's getting better.
Competitive. Competitive.
Yeah, competitive, yeah. But if you look at our juniors this season, I think all of them were quite disappointing, except for I'm trying to think. I think the Balmain. No, I actually don't think any of the SG Ball teams or the Power Mat teams made the finals, so that's quite disappointing. So, and then like New South Wales Cup and Flags, disappointing as well. So I think, although like you would argue that the point of like juniors is that like you produce first grade talent for the first grade team, so you'd say that guys like De Silva, guys like Galvin, even though like, take away his situation, like they're playing first grade, so you would argue that the junior development system is working. But I don't think that it's like the teams are competitive enough where it should be working better, and we should be producing more players, because at the moment we had like a really good green shoot of players coming through the system where we won a trophy and we were quite competitive. But now it looks like that's kind of stagnated a little bit. So I'm a little bit worried about what that's going to look like for the next few years. And it'd be interesting to see like if anything's changed, or like this like age group just isn't as good. But in terms of the New South Wales Cup team, I think there's just too many guys at the moment that just aren't like pushing for first grade. And then it sucks as well, because then when you introduce the new players or the young players, like they're in a losing team, so that halts their development as well. And then like we've rushed a few guys to first grade as well, like who are young, because we've prioritized like debuting guys. So it's just like it's kind of the opposite where it happens, where like you'd realistically want someone to play like a full season of New South Wales Cup before they even debut in first grade, but we're parachuting them in when they're 18, 19 years old because we need to, because we're trying to develop these guys in first grade. So it is all a bit backwards. But you look at the Bulldogs, and guys like Mitch Wood, who's like got all the hype in the world. He's not even anywhere near the first grade team. But if he was at the Tigers, he probably would have already debuted by now, probably prematurely. So yeah, I agree with you. I think Phil Gould, he just knows how to build a footy club. But I do think Shane Richardson does as well. So I
But
think
that's not necessarily his strong suit, is it? He's sort of like Phil Gould's not CEO of the Bulldogs. You know what I mean?
Well, he essentially is like he's. I would say he's more like he's got more authority than the CEO of the Bulldogs. Like he's not a numbers guy. Like he doesn't handle the business side of it, but like he would have more control than the CEO, I reckon.
But wouldn't someone like Matt Betsy be doing more that Phil Gould role here?
What do you mean? Like the pathways?
In
Yeah,
terms of, overseeing pathways and recruiting guys and organising who coaches those teams. I just think it's a massive sort of job these days. And I don't know, like I said at the start, I don't expect us to go out and find the next Phil Gould because there's obviously not that many around because I don't think every club necessarily had them. But the reason
yeah.
I actually brought it up, Steve, I was listening to Ben Eichen, who's disappeared for a few years, but he was sort of doing that role at Brisbane for a few years, and now he's on, I think, boss of the QRL or something. So, and it was a really interesting insight he gave into how to build a football club and what he learned about salary cap and building it up. And I just thought maybe we could do with given we don't, and I thought Richo's done a great job so far with Benji, but he also got rid of Scott Fulton. We don't have a recruitment manager either. So I just wondered whether they're spreading themselves a bit thin in terms of our pathways, even though I think they've done a really good job with the NRL squad.
Yeah, they might be. Again, I don't know. I don't know enough about it, but I think we're going to give Richardson a fair bit of credit. Like he's done this all before. Like, I don't know. Like if you talk about pathways and Matt Betsy, you're sort of talking about the developing kids from 14, bringing them right through. And I think Richardson's more about recruitment and retention at the NRL level or just under. And he's done it before. He's done it at South. He's done it at Penrith. He's done it at Cronulla, hasn't he? Richardson. So he knows how to build a squad. He knows how to take a club from the bottom to the top. He's done it multiple times, and recruitment has got to have a large, he's got to have his hands all over that. He says all the right things, Richardson, I reckon, like the way he's in there doing it, but he's saying Benji has a big say, if not the final say, and he respects his head coach. So I think we're in good hands as far as experience goes. I just want to hope that we're just still a year away from starting to see the fruits of some of this hard work down in that development area.
Speaking of development, Declan, I'll throw this one to you. Macassini, the young centre, will debut this season once he turns 18. Buy or sell?
I'm going to buy that. I've said it a few times on a group chat. I think he's on I think he's on a pretty good wicket for someone who's still in high school, and I think they'll want to give him some experience at the end of this season to prepare him for next season. And I think he's physically developed enough because I think he was at the Leichhardt game. There was a photo of him, and he's honestly bigger than all of the outside backs in the first grade team. And I think he's talented enough to play first grade now. And then Benji also debuted Luke Lily as soon as he turned 18 as well. So I don't think he's scared to do it. But, I'm probably contradicting myself a little bit with debuting them too early. But I have a feeling that he will. We'll see him in some capacity, either on the wing or at centre. Probably wing to start with. But yeah, I reckon we'll see him.
Declan, just on young players, because I've been just listening to various Tigers podcasts and reading forums and stuff. The only other dude that's sort of rating a mention at the moment is probably a fair way away, a young fella called Jared Hayward, who's a young hooker coming through, I believe been playing for Balmain and is possibly going to step up to play Flegg or State Cup at the back end of this year. What would you be looking as your ideal situation for the hooking position going forward? Do you think it's Talon, all eggs onto Talon de Silva and Appy goes at the end of 2026, or is it possible this kid could come into the mix and replace Appy, or should we be re-signing Appy? What do you reckon?
So I think that Hayward's a really good player. I think that he's definitely a first grade player. He already has played Flegg, but he even played in the Haas at some point. I think he also played in the Haas for Patrician Brothers when they won the final. So he's got that versatility. And we've re-signed him for 3 years, which I think is really, really good. But in saying that, I think that Talon de Silva at the same age was better. Not to say that Hayward's not really good, but Talon was a standout player coming through. So, and he's already at the stage where he is contributing to the first grade team. So we don't have to kind of wait and see. But with Hayward, I think we would have to give him a few seasons and then wait. So I would be prioritising De Silva. I don't think that we should re-sign Appy Coruscant at the expense of De Silva because I think it might be good short term, but I think for the long term gain of making sure we've got the hooker who could be the hooker for the next 10 years, I think it's something you've got to do. And if it means you lose Appy, I'm willing to accept that because I just see so many teams, like I remember that the Cowboys got rid of Kalen Ponga to re-sign Lachlan Coote after they won the grand final, and you just think like, geez, like Lachlan Coote was a really good player for the Cowboys, but it cost them Kalen Ponga long term, who could have played for them for 10 years. So yeah, I just don't want to make that mistake. Not to say
But why Declan? Why does one need to go in replacing the other? Like what I see would be the ideal situation is that what they've got going now, which I don't understand why they sort of Benji stopped it, but Appy playing 60, Talon playing 20 minutes has been working for us really well. It was beginning of the season. I can see that over the next 12 months, that flipping round where Talon becomes a dominant player and Appy becomes the player who's playing less minutes at the back end of his career, maybe starting, but maybe coming off the bench, right? He can still contribute heaps to the team, to the game as playing 20, 30 minutes. Talon De Silva definitely will want more and more minutes as he gets more experience. And then in 18 months, maybe 2.5 years time, then Appy bows out and this young fellow, what's his name, Haywood, if he's the good, then he sort of comes in. The same thing starts again where Talon's playing 60 and this young fella's playing 20, and that's how it goes forward. Like I don't know why we have to say, well, if we want to keep Talon, we got to get rid of Appy. I don't think that has to be the case.
Well, it's just that Richardson said himself that re-signing Appy might cost us De Silva. So you would imagine on that premise that like a manager, maybe De Silva's manager, has told the Tigers that like if he's going to re-sign, then like he wants to be the starting hooker. Whether you agree with that or not, I think is another question. But I do think that's part of the negotiations at the moment. And this is all for 2027 as well, because Appy's contracted for next year anyway. But yeah, I just think that while I agree that that would work, I think when you've got like player managers and like interests, I think that like it's just the reality of the situation that, if you had to choose, it looks like they will have to choose. I think, you've just got to prioritize like what you think's best. And Appy as well is probably good enough to start as well past 2026. So maybe he'd want to, like who's to say that he's satisfied with, playing 20 minutes off the bench after that? Like he might get a first grade gig somewhere else where he'll manage to get, like starting hooker money, more years, more financial security. So that comes into the equation as well. So I think it is a bit of a delicate juggling act.
Let's do one more. Steve, Galvin will end up at the Bulldogs, buy or sell?
Why? I think that's where he'll go. It just makes so much more sense than going to Parramatta.
Declan, you I'm not sure if it was you or Joel. You're pretty sure. I think we're all thinking it was Parramatta, but geez, the more this goes on, the more I think, like Steve said, the fact that he wants development. Apparently, he's got his schoolboy coach there, which is some big factor. And I just have this bad feeling that he's going to go to the Bulldogs because let's be honest, if he does leave, I'd rather see him fail. And there's much more chance of that happening at Parramatta than the Bulldogs for me.
I mean, I think these conversations are all fluid because you can't actually sign like a legally binding contract until November 1. So I wouldn't be surprised if his manager was telling both teams that he's coming to them. But yeah, look, I don't know. Like I feel like the Bulldogs, like that would be really good. As Steve said, it makes a lot of sense in terms of like great coach, like great system. I'm just not sure what they would do with Matt Barden if he would have to move to centre, if he'd be happy with that. I don't think a Galvin Barton half combination would work. They've got Mitch Woods coming through.
Would you take because I know you rate Latu, but I'm just worried that we can't afford to go into next year. And I think Galvin will be gone at the end of the year. I just don't know if we can go in with only Luai and Latu with Latu's injury history. I wouldn't mind someone like Toby Sexton if he becomes available.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think last year's injuries have meant that we just can't rely on him to play a full season. At the moment, that could change if he, puts a few games together. So yeah, I wouldn't be averse to someone like Sexton coming in, or like someone like Adam Reynolds as well. If that happens. I'm not really sure if there's any truth to those rumors, but yeah, I definitely agree with you. I don't think we can go. I don't think we can just go
I
without
know we
any
have
other
Bud Sullivan
signings.
coming back, but I've sort of written him off as a player who can play well in first grade. He'll probably have a blinder this week,
Yeah,
but
watch him go
yeah,
on Sunday night, mate.
yeah.
I
I went
mean,
on a rant, Steve, not like me to go on a rant that he shouldn't be allowed to play this Sunday because he's out on loan. Wouldn't it be just typical West Tigers if he had a blinder for South
He'll
got to
score
the
three
final
tries.
spot? It's for 3 tries. Let's preview the South game. Declan out at Campbelltown. South with a 26-18 overall record, win-loss. But they've won 8 of the last 10, so it's actually dead even before probably the last, 3 spoons we've got. Uh, Interesting team changes. We mentioned it before. We got Toa back at centre, which is great, which pushes Staines back onto the wing, but Naden to the bench. Did anything in the 17 surprise you?
well, yeah, I think we've already all talked about it. Naden at 14 wasn't something I'd expect. I know that De Silva didn't have a great game against the Storm, but no one had a great game against the Storm. So I'm a bit surprised that they dropped him. But I'd have to imagine there'd be some sort of late change, surely. Maybe Hope comes in, I'm not sure. That kind of like more solid, kind of what you're going to get from him. Maybe that could be it. But other than that, not too surprised. Hunt coming in, I think the Hunt is definitely, like, although he's better coming off the bench, I think he's definitely good enough to start for us. So it's just that factor that we discussed. I just have no idea what to expect in terms of like their attitude and their intensity, because like if they can do that against Melbourne, then like they could definitely do it against South. So that's just the kind of hold your breath moment for me. Like I think it'll be pretty clear in the first like 10, 20 minutes what kind of game we're gonna see here. Because I don't know, South, they've been a bit up and down this season, but I do think they've got good players. And I think they're probably on the level of the Dragons, where if we play well, we can beat them, like not comfortably, but within a fair margin. But then if we play bad, they could like put a few points on us as well.
Steve, it's been a bit of a running joke in the chat this year. I always say, well, this is Judgment Week. I've said it about 7 times this year, but I look at this game. I just think it's huge for us because I look at our next 7 games, uh, you know, and like you said, I think you made a good point about the weather starts to get cold, the injuries start to feel a bit sorer. Cowboys away, Penrith, who are going to need to win, Raiders, Manly away, Roosters away, Warriors away. So I'm going to say, just to bring back, Eddie's gambling, this will be the shortest price we start in the next 7 games, and we are level pegging. It's about $1.90 each, the South game. I'd be emptying the tank this game. I'd be just telling all the boys I would have given them till today off or something. Go away for 2 days, think about it, and let's empty the tank. Let's start our senior guys hunt. I'd be looking at Luai. I'll be looking at Appy, but I think we need it's going to be probably an 80-minute performance from Appy. It's going to have to be an 80-minute performance from Terrell May. So I'd just be saying to these guys, we got to treat this almost like our grand final.
So really, you can only have one season-defining game. Would you agree with that, right? So I use that
We've had
against,
7 already.
yeah, I use that against Cronulla, and then I thought last Sunday was season-defining again because it just undid a lot of good work. But mate, if there's ever a game that is season-defining, it is this Sunday. The bounce back just absolutely has to be there. You're right, Declan. We match up pretty well against South. We can definitely if you forget last Sunday and think of the way we've played for most of this season, we can definitely beat South this weekend. I went down to Melbourne confident that we could, you know, stick with Melbourne at the very least, and look how that turned out. But we need to get back to the way we've played earlier in the season, and we can beat this team. I don't like Hunt starting. I like the fact that we sort of get through that first 25 minutes, and then real impact strikes with Bird and Hunt coming on at the same time.
Can't get
So
two stints out of him though, maybe Steve starting. Could we get two stints out of him?
yeah, you might, yeah. Well, that would be the plan, I'd imagine, and maybe they want the faster start. Maybe that they're saying that that's really killing us at the moment, those slow starts. But the one I really struggle with is Naden at 14. I just don't get it at all. I can't understand why he's there ahead of De Silva unless as Declan, you said, there's going to be a change. I don't know. De Silva needs to be at 14, not Naden. It doesn't make any sense at all to me.
South's interesting, Declan, because they have actually been pulverised by injuries this year, and they're still missing Cody Walker, Jack Whiten, and obviously Cam Murray. But they did get back Alex Johnson and obviously Latrell. Um, with Latrell, I'd just be trying to just don't poke the bear, don't try and upset him, or don't do anything because, like, he could come out and have a quiet game this week if we don't upset him or give him a reason to really
Origin
sting him.
selection, Eddie.
Yeah, I know, but if I'd wanted to go after anyone, sort of in a mental sort of sense, I'd probably go after Bud Sullivan because I think he's a pretty temperamental sort of player. Declan.
See, I think with Latrell, like I wouldn't like poke the bear, like so to speak, with his like trying to get under his skin, but I would make him work. Like I would make him do all the kind of like the gritty fullback stuff that Dylan Edwards is great at because Latrell Mitchell is not great at that stuff. So I'd be kicking the corners, making him run for the ball, making him like do these dirty head ups, just so that when they get good ball in our 20, he's a little bit more gassed and he can come up with those star plays because like he's like probably the best player on the field. And if he doesn't have like a tank on him for when they've got good ball, that's a huge plus for us. And as you said, he has a little bit up and down. And last week he was up, so it's going to be interesting to see what he's like this game. It's a Sunday night game, Campbelltown. It's not as bright lights. It's an away game. It's going to be interesting to see how he plays. But we need to make him work for it, I reckon, and we can't give him any like cheap opportunities. And like to be fair, we did a good job of that, doing that with Ponga against the Knights up in Newcastle. So it's going to have to be a similar situation. But also, I think that Humphreys is also a really, really good player. And then Sullivan, I agree with you guys. I have some sort of bad feeling that he's just going to, have 3 try assists against us as well. So like they do have like talent in other places. Colin Matangi's playing prop, which I'm a bit happy with because he's not on an edge because he's a really good player as well. But, we just have to do better than last week for some in-depth analysis.
Can I take up your point, Declan, there on kicking the way we kicked to Ponga and kicking to Latrell Mitchell? Because I actually wrote that down as saying that's one of the things we need to do is kick away from Mitchell. When we played against Newcastle, and it's been the tactic for most of the year, we're actually kicking to the player a lot of the time, but we're just doing these really high bombs that are a little bit shorter. We're like not driving it right down towards the try line, but just letting our defensive line get to it so that we're surrounding the guy as he catches the ball. To me, that would be a huge mistake against South. All right, you don't want to be giving the ball to Latrell Mitchell on the full at all. You want to do exactly what you said, which is kick in the corners and make him run 20, 30 meters to the football every single defensive set, which is not the way we've kicked all year.
Yeah, I think that yes, you don't want to just like give him, empty kicks, but I wouldn't mind him off a kick, like coming back off like a well placed kick, like a high bomb or just to tire him out because he's not. If you look at him, like he often does give the ball to his winger to take that first head up because he doesn't want to gas himself. So if we can just get him to use up all his energy in the first and second and third tackles, then I think that'd be a good tactic because I don't think he's the kind of athlete that can run 100 meters to score a try. Touch wood, like I can just imagine him doing that now. Like I don't think he's got that kind of motor, but yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, possession as well is going to be key because if they have, like a lot of sets in our 20, then they'll probably score no matter what. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see.
South's only averaging 15.9 points a game, which I think's quite telling. I think they've struggled with attack all year. And if we can shut down Latrell, I actually give us a big chance of winning this, Steve. And, you know, I'm going to predict we're going to win this game, but it might be the last time I predict we win till round 20 when we play the Titans. If things don't change in terms of maybe a couple of mid-season signings or a real upturn, because I actually think our last four performances we look pretty tired, and we're probably lucky to win those two games. Not saying we weren't good. I thought we were excellent against Granada, who are a top four side, but I'm going to predict we empty the tank and we get a win this week.
Yeah, well, will predict the same, but I'm not doing it with any sort of confidence. I
Neither.
just think
Neither.
it's hard to tip the team after last week, sadly, but they can do it. They can be a better team than South, I think.
Declan, are you confident or hopeful like us?
I'm not confident. I think we beat South at Campbelltown last year, so like hopefully that like is an indication that we'll do it right. I think it's a huge test for Benji Marshall because you know that if we were coached by Wayne Bennett, we'd be up for this game.
Well,
Because
Wayne, they're not going to beat themselves being a Wayne Bennett team, are they? They're
no,
going
but
to beat.
yeah, because I just remember that story about how South Sydney got absolutely thumped against Penrith at Mudgee, was it? Like it was 50 points. And then like Jairo told the story about how everyone was like doom and gloom. And then Wayne Bennett just came in and said, we're not doing like any video sessions. We're just gonna like scratch it. And then they went on that season to like go into the grand final against Penrith. So like it can be done. You can turn us around. But it's going to be interesting to see if Benji Marshall has that kind of man management to get everyone to like put aside that performance and then stay on task and stay focused for the rest of the year. So that's the big question for me is what the bounce back's going to look like.
Well, Steve, this might be the last time I ever go to Campbelltown, and I got nothing against the ground. I like going out there, but we've won two of our last 15. But I want to know, and no one can look this up because they wouldn't know, but what my personal record is there because I don't think I've seen us win there in about 8 years. I didn't go to the games last year against the Raiders or South, which we won, but I've definitely been to all the losses. So I reckon I'm about 0 for my last 30 at Campbelltown. So this is the final chance I'm giving it. But you're more excited because you've got an ambush event on out there, I believe.
Yeah, we do. We've got another ambush event this coming Sunday. So first grade kickoffs at 6:15. So the ambush event's at 4 o'clock, and it's over at the Beer Shed, which is in Holylee Road in Lamia, and it's really close to the ground. It's just if you imagine the ground, it's just across over the railway line, go over the bridge, the railway line, and it's right there. It's a 5-minute walk from the ground to the Beer Shed, and obviously 5-minute walk back after the event. So we're doing a combined event. We did this last year. So it's the ambush crew and also the Burrow from South Sydney. And so we're there together. And Souths have got Blake Solly, their CEO, coming to be interviewed at 4:15. We are hoping to have Kezi Apps there, but that will be totally dependent on how things pull up tonight for her. But that's down as hopeful more than probable at this stage. But if you want to get together with some friends before kickoff, come over to the Beer Shed, mix with some South supporters at the Burrow, and we'll have a good time.
All right. Excellent, Steve. Declan, let's do the quiz. Who's got the quiz? Steve's got it, I believe.
Oh, I've got the quiz, yeah.
Got Yachty's quiz?
I've got Yachty's quiz, yeah. I'm surprised he's come back, Yachty, after last week's debaucherous effort. That was just, like if you're going to be professional, you got to be professional, right, Yachty? But anyway, all right. So Yachty's quiz number 11 against the Rabbitohs. We West Tigers have put 50 plus points on South Sydney in 4 different games and seasons. In which year did we record our highest winning score on them? A, 2002, B, 2004, C, 2006, or D, 2009?
Well, I remember the last game of the year against them was 2004, and I was there at Leichhardt, and I reckon that was huge. What I found funny that day, they actually had some of their injured members. This is how professional league was back then, and Souths were sitting on the hill drinking beer and laughing when they were getting lapped. So I'm going to go 2004.
I'm going to 2009 just because I have no idea.
Well, I'm constantly amazed at Eddie in so many different ways, but one of those ways is his memory. You're right, Eddie. 2004, 156-6 at Leichhardt. Spot on, mate. All right, true or false? The first South Sydney player to join us, West Tigers, was after our 2005 Premiership triumph.
To South Sydney player to join us.
True.
Alan Craigie joined us, but did he come? I think he went to Souths after us, so I'm going to go with Declan. I'm going to go true.
Both on true. It's false. Justin Doyle played 14 games with the Rabbitohs from 98 and 99 and joined us in 2000, making 8 appearances and scoring 1 try. The look on Declan's face there the anguish was incredible. All right, question 3. Name the 7 NRL players who appeared in the 2014 NRL Grand Final. That was Rabbits Bulldogs. That played at the West Tigers in any point in their career. All right, so this is a good question here. So 2014 Grand Final, Rabbits and Bulldogs. There were 7 players who played in that played for West Tigers at any point in their career.
Lottie.
I'll give you a hint. There's 3 for South and 4 for Canterbury.
So Josh Reynolds, Chris
Lottie.
McQueen.
Josh
Three for
Reynolds
South,
is
did you
not.
say?
Josh Reynolds not one of them.
What?
Josh Reynolds is not one of them down here.
He
really?
played on the grand final.
Yeah.
Did he play in that grand final?
I swear he did.
2014, unless he was injured. I think
Okay.
Mike Dennis was injured, but Josh Reynolds played.
All right, so Yachty might be in strife again here, but we'll wait for him to come back.
Played for West Tigers at any point in their career. Who
Yeah.
else from the Bulldogs? Trying to think of that team. 2014, 4 guys. Forwards or backs, Steve?
There's a bit of both. So one has just moved on.
Just retired.
No, he hasn't retired. He's moved on.
Right.
Played for New South Wales.
2014.
And he moved on earlier this year. Last name rhymes with Plemmer.
Claymore, David Claymore.
Oh, good one.
I had no clue.
Fair income. I was going to have to put a picture up. What about a really good winger for Canterbury?
I was going to say Matt Utai, but it wasn't Matt Utai.
Nuggety winger.
Just another nuggety
Quick.
winger.
Oh, Corey Thompson.
Yeah, Corey Thompson.
Jesus, he played in the grand final.
Fullback 5'8", set the world on fire for us.
Mitch
In
Brown.
one game anyway.
Fullback 5'8".
Oh, Moses Mbai.
No Zambai. Yeah.
Jesus, was he in the grand final team? He wasn't starting, was he, for Canterbury?
Second row. And we'll go to South, right? Second row. There's a current one. There's a current player in our current squad.
Oh, Api Coruscant.
Happy, yeah, happy.
Of course.
Yeah.
That was
another
almost his
second
favourite.
rower who played his best football with the Tigers, like so many of the recruits back then.
Was it Chris McQueen?
Chris McQueen, yeah, signed up and then we didn't see him for 2 years. And then a damaging winger,
Lottie.
yeah.
That's a good question, that.
Yeah, that's a great question. All right, nearest to the pin, this one. What was the record crowd number for our round 20 2005 game against South at Leichhardt Oval? Nearest to the pin.
Well, I remember being there, and there were, it was almost dangerous that day. I remember people being on the roofs outside. It was definitely 23,000. I'm going to say it was 23,565.
I have no clue. I'm gonna go. Yeah, I have no clue. Sorry.
All right. So, well, that's pretty close. It was 22,877, and how they fit 22,000, almost 23, at Leichhardt is amazing, really. All right, last one. Who am I? And the hint here. So Yachty has listened to the feedback. A more recent player, as per Declan's request.
Thank
Who am
you.
I? Born in Maitland in 1932. No, that's not right. Born in Maitland in 1990. Played juniors locally until an interstate team signed me up. Played part of the opposition team when our West Tigers lost the 2009 NYC Grand Final, the youth comp. Debuted in a salary cap affected season,
Is it Jake
making
Mullaney?
no.
Oh, sorry.
So you're out.
Yeah.
Debuted in a salary cap affected season, making 2 appearances in 2 years. Returned back to New South Wales and played 72 games in the Hunter for 5 years. Joined a Sydney-based team in 2017 and returned back to his first ever club mid-season. Then signed with the West Tigers and played in a season where we finished 9th and scored 1 try in 12 club games. Still contracted with us in 2019, but only played reserve grade and retired at the end of the season. My first and last name initials are both the same letter.
He's from Newcastle. Which other NRL club did he play for?
Doesn't say. My first name is the same name as one of our all-time legends.
Brett. Benji. It'd be Benji.
Close, Robbie.
Robbie. I was going to say
Robbie Rocco.
Robbie Rocco, that's it.
Rocco.
Robbie Rocco. Probably kept the suspense going about 2 minutes too long. That's it, mate. That's Yachty's quiz.
Excellent. Thank you, Yachty. It was some interesting questions there tonight. All right, boys. Well, good luck with your ambush event Sunday. I'll try and get out there because I was planning actually, because it's one of the few times, maybe the first time this year, that they've put reserve grade on before first grade. Fancy that. So I was going to go and watch that reserve grade game and see how they're tracking. Unless it's pouring rain, then I probably won't go at all. All right, Declan, Steve, thank you. Let's hope Joel's back Sunday night because I've done the last 2.
Cheers, guys.
Big hello to Joel. See you, boys.